Next is you can start with freelancing sites like Upwork to gain exposure and experience. So another thing that happens is initially when you're doing contract drafting work, most of the work that you would be doing at an entry level would be that you don't have experience. This is a query that will keep coming from your clients. I started with simple service like trademark registration or drafting employment agreements because these were the more easier to obtain. The clients will trust somebody who is at a beginner level or who has just started practice with those services over a period of time if you're prompt. So again, one of the most important thing that you have to understand is that initially when clients come to you, they are looking for prompt services. They do not want you to make them wait in line for days. So when you start this gateway services, make sure that you establish good work ethic. You're there a phone call away, and you explain what you're doing. You're not just offering structural services without explaining what that is there. In fact, this is one of the most common issues that my clients have said, because of which they shift their lawyers. That most of the time lawyers are very good with offering solutions, but rarely they explain that why this and why not. For instance, uh, I think 2 days back I was advising a client on LLP and company, which one should she go for. And the first thing she told me was that I had the same query for so many lawyers, but most of the lawyers just explained that this is what you have to do, not what are the implications or what are the advantages and disadvantages between the two. So do that. Explain why you're doing what you're doing. Have that. This builds the trust between you and your client. Next, so can start with freelancing sites like Upwork to gain exposure and experience. So has anybody heard of Upwork? What is Upwork? So it's a freelancing site. What basically happens with Upwork is you can list yourself, then people who are looking for those contract drafting services or other service, they will directly contact you. Now, even if you're in a tier 2 or tier 3 city, you can, in fact, in Upwork, you will see so many lawyers who are registered in India, who are located in Amritsar, who are located in Guwahati, and they are working for international clients. So that's also a great way to start your practice and reach out to global clients, not just national. And the way it works with Upwork is if your delivery is good, if you're able to satisfy your client, you will keep moving up in ranking. And there's also this also ensures that when you offer these services to companies in your area, you have some experience to show. You will, and Upwork has very good value. Most of the people from engineering and science background, they know Upwork very well. So a good rating on Upwork is definitely going to have a very good impact when you're in comparison to your peers. Next is connect as a local counsel for law firms. Build your network through LinkedIn. So this is not something that will happen very easily. This requires a lot of consistency. So build your LinkedIn profile in such a manner that you're regularly sharing work, you're having publications, you're doing a lot of work. So a lot of law firms will have local clients. For instance, I was working with a law firm that has a client who has factories across India. Now, at every place, they require certain local certifications, local drafting, or probably an appearance. So, when you are active on LinkedIn, when you have a very good profile, which shows that you can write well, you understand the law, and you can do it, and you are somebody who can be trusted, you will start getting offers of being a local counsel for them. And this is such high value work because once you are a local counsel for one law firm, you're bound to get work for other law firms as well. And second, it helps you move up the ladder that tomorrow, if you're looking to move out or looking to work in other places, this will have very good CV value. So for this reason, build your LinkedIn profile, because through your LinkedIn profile, you're not going to get a lot of clients or corporate clients. But LinkedIn profile is very important, especially in legal network. So do that. And in fact, if you, today you will search contract drafting lawyers in Indore, you will hardly find 5 to 10 lawyers who are listed and who have active profile. So that's where it's very easy to stand out for somebody who is looking a good local counsel. 11th, offer free workshops on topics like POSH. What is POSH? While most of the companies, most of the global companies, and most of the companies that are present in different cities have very ensure compliance in POSH, you will find that in smaller cities, hospitals, or other places, they still struggle to ensure compliance with POSH. So you can have, say, when there's a doctors conference or other conferences where business leaders are meeting, you can always have a free workshop on topics like POSH. So you can offer workshops on intellectual property, data privacy, startups, because if you'll see, most of the startups now are online. So what do they need? If they are running their entire business through a website, and if somebody copies content from the website, say logo nahi copy kara hai, but the content is copied, then what are the venues they can do? So offer workshops like these, that what are the things you need, what are the things you need to keep in mind. You should have a data policy, you should have a privacy policy. Then third, employment agreements. If you're having a workshop for employment agreements, you will get a very good attendance, because a lot of companies face problem when their employees leave them for their competitors. And second thing, what happens when you're planning these workshops, do not think that tomorrow you're going to be a standalone person who will offer a workshop in an auditorium and audience will show up. No. When there's a conference that is happening, national level or even local level conferences, have a session of 15-30 minutes where you're adding value to those group of people. For instance, if there's a conference that is happening for gynecologist, so I will offer a workshop on POXO. If there's a conference that is happening for some other stream of lawyers, I will have a conference on medical negligence. If there's a conference that is happening for engineers who are looking for startups or students, I will have a conference on intellectual property. So always have this additional workshops or sessions whenever you see that there's a conference. Approach the coordinator of the conference, and more often than not, if you're not charging money and if they think that you're somebody who is good with law and who is actually looking to add services. See, again, these are not places where you solicit work. You're only going to share your details if somebody wants to have counseling or other things. But your face gets recognized. People know that you're there. You're somebody who can be trusted. So again, this starts in building those long-term relationships that we have. 12th, this is most important. If you can get this right, trust me, your growth curve would be more steep, even sometimes more steep than your peers, even more steep than your peers in metros or working for law firms. How do you ensure that? So to ensure this, in most of North India, for instance, the newspapers that would be most read would not be Times of India or Hindu, but would be Dainik Bhaskar, Dainik Jagran. These are the newspapers that are most read, and these are generally published locally. If you'll see the quality of legal articles, they leave a lot to be desired. So if you start writing, start writing regularly in a vernacular language, you can always approach these papers for a free legal advice column or column about where you cover contemporary developments. This builds your brand. This builds your brand as somebody who can be approached for valuable services. So you can share, for instance, you can write for cooling off period. You can write an article which would not only be valuable for the readers of that newspaper, but would also establish you as a brand. People will know you. So knowledge of vernacular language is very important. Most of us who come from good law schools or who have studied in English medium, we are not that comfortable and we scoff at the idea of writing in a local language. We always think that हमें blog start करना है, we will publish in on these online forums. But trust me, when you're working in a smaller town, your strategy has to be different. You have to write in more accessible manner. A WhatsApp, a WhatsApp post in a vernacular language for professionals will have a lot more takers than a random blog post or LinkedIn post, even if it gives a lot of insights. So start writing in local language, start working in local language, and have publications which have wider reach and wider audience. So I think if you do these things consistently, see, these are not the ideas that today, if you do and tomorrow you're going to get client. You have to be at it for at least couple of months. You'll start seeing the results. Before getting clients, you have to establish a brand, you have to offer value service, and you have to be good with your work. So if you're taking an employment agreement or if you're taking a trademark registration, you cannot afford to do mistakes in that. Be careful when you're initially doing your work. When you're writing in a local language, your article should be engaging. So if you do these things carefully, they do not come in solicitation, you do not need a lot of contacts, and you can start your work. And trust me, the biggest challenge that is there is those initial getting those 5 to 10 clients. After that, your work will travel. Word of mouth, you will keep getting clients. So start doing these things on a regular basis. Just connect with startup needs. So every tier 2 or tier 3 city or every smaller town, no matter, will always have a startup chapter. For instance, go online today and search for a startup chapter that is there in your city. Startup Indore, Startup Bhubaneswar, these are very active sessions. And nowadays, what is happening with COVID is especially most of these are becoming virtual. So in fact, you have wider audience, you will have people across cities who will be hearing you. So if you get audience in these startups, if you get to organize sessions in these, you will not only create value, but again, you will be reaching out to people who have a lot of potential. Target the MSME cloud. So this is very important. Most of the time, we think that most of the reach out has to happen online, but that's not the case. Sometimes in every city, if you'll see, there will be special economic zones, there will be special areas where you will find a lot of MSMEs and smaller companies. So go to those places because most of these are very well connected. Most of this, if you, in fact, if in my case, when I worked with one startup, I got contact of at least 3 startups from that person because most of these people who are in the same city often face very similar challenges. So the word of mouth travel very fast in communities. And second is MSME sector, which is specifically, you will see, they will never have very good in-house counsels. They will be having chartered accountants or lawyers who are very good with compliance-based work, but with advisory or drafting, they leave a lot to be desired. To target these people, see whenever there's a need, go approach them, offer services to them. Target these crowd specifically. And if your city is known for a particular, say for instance, Indore is known for its namkeen. So see what are the laws that are applicable. Try publishing things in that area. Try having workshop on similar ideas in your city. Find out what are the industries that are based. Localize it.